So anyway, so we have a very special guest who is not a guest anymore. He's part of our family at the Newark School. So Josh Campell is the new head of drama at the Newark School of the Arts, and
Yes.
we're very excited to get to know you more. So we have a
Thank
few questions to get to know your work, and maybe we'll finish the talk with some advice that you can give some of the students at the school.
Amazing. Okay, I'll try my best.
So I was looking at your website, and first of all, I love how poetic everything is written. I can see your voice in your website.
Yes,
It's
I tried to.
yeah, it's very it's unique. It's a unique voice. So I invite everybody watching this, and I'm gonna leave a link on the video down here with the website of Josh, so you can go and visit it. But one of the things that struck me is this relationship that you have between drama, art, and activism. So,
Yes.
so the first question is, what is activism in art?
Activism and art. So a little bit about where I've come from, which will kind of everyone can understand the immersion of the two. So one of my grandmothers was a pastor. My mom's mom was a pastor, and my dad's mom was a history teacher. So growing up, I was always immersed in history, art, and spirituality. Um, and so when I went to Baltimore School for the Arts in Baltimore, which is the school where Tupac and Jada went. So there we really focused on, and what most folks don't know also too is that I'm a classically trained tuba player,
Hmm.
which is I think the most interesting thing about me, depending on who you ask. So there in that conservatory style, was really an emphasis on owning and finding your unique voice, which led me to college where I became interested in how do we tell other people's stories and connect other cultures to our own lived experiences. So when we think about art and activism, they go hand in hand, right? So everyone's activism, what I've learned this year more so than in past years, everyone's activism is connected to who we are authentically as people. So if you know that you're the type to riot, not riot, that's the wrong word. You know that you're the type to be in the streets protesting, then your activism is going to be very raw, very poetic, very your art is going to be raw and poetic, and it's going to be very in your face, versus someone who their activism may be teaching in classrooms. So it's going to be very structured, very linear, very focused. And it really just depends on who you are as a person. And yeah, it depends on who you are as a
So
person and where you come from.
let me see if I'm trying to. So the activism is part of everybody's art in a way. Is
Yes.
coming to understand who you are and bringing that out.
hmm
In,
And what's also interesting about arts and activism is that who you are is inherently political. So if you go and say that I am a black person, I'm a male, I'm queer, I'm Christian, all of that is political because depending on how you look at someone else and their art and where they come from, that dictates how you see their art and encounter it if it causes you tension or not. So who you are and the very things that you do and where you come from is political. And so activism is political, so that means your art is political.
hmm. Can you give us a couple of examples of your work and how activism is part of some of the works that you have written?
Yeah, so I am in the midst of finishing a lot of my work. because of the nature of the art community. Most of my work is inherently activist because I'm looking at a social justice issue that is deeply rooted. So right now I'm finishing up a play about my work in the Trenton community, and it's a piece about children and education. So when you're sitting in one of my plays, the idea is that we're looking at a history and we're going to interrogate it and figure out if there's a solution or not. But I'm also inviting you to meet people, um, ex- ask questions, and leave with some type of thought where you'll either want to investigate, you'll want to stand up, and you'll want to think about how you encounter people differently. So my work in activism really is looking at ways in which we can deepen our understanding of people and social justice issues, raising folks' empathy.
Is there a particular phrase or a character in one of your plays that stands out, or you want to give us as an example of this work, of this
Uh,
activism work?
yeah, one particular piece that stays with me is a piece I wrote. I had a chance to go on a fellowship to Italy, so I wrote a piece about the Syrian humanitarian crisis next to Hurricane Katrina and the Baltimore uprisings of 2015. And those pieces are kaleidoscopes. I have a bunch of different characters. The one character that stands out to me is, and most of my work is autobiographical,
Hmm.
but the one person that stands out to me was a character of Yasser, who was a painter. Um, and he also was haunted by a ghost of the past. And so for me, what struck me was in writing, and then I had to perform him to understand. Part of my work is being performative and performing the text. What I came to understand about him was just how far it can go when you're bound and chained to a place that is your history, your legacy, and you want to break free, but you can't. And that is so much that grounded me in the reality of why sometimes protesting turns into rioting. Is
Hmm.
that you just become so enraged once you go down that rabbit hole of history and place and location that you have no way to release it but to physically act out violence that have been placed upon you. It's the trauma in the blood. And so it really took me doing that, writing that character and that role in
Hmm.
that play to understand what some folks were feeling here in Baltimore and as we've seen all over the country now in 2020.
There's a quote. I don't know who it belongs to, but it just came to mind while you're saying this. Is that the voice of the rioters is the voice of the unheard? Who said
Yes,
this? I don't know. But
I'm
it
going to Google that.
is the voice of
I
the
feel like it
unheard.
was a Baldwin quote, but it may not be a Baldwin quote, so I don't want to attach that to Jimmy Baldwin.
Yeah. Now, you said that you went to college for tuba playing.
I went to college. No, I was in high school for tuba
Oh,
playing,
you
but I
okay,
went to
high
college to
school.
be a
Okay.
theater major. Yeah, no,
Now
it's interesting.
I
They were
see
very upset with me.
I see the link already. From your life. As a person between music and drama. Being a tuba player and then going a different route for college.
Yeah,
But the link between music and drama is very powerful in your writing, and you especially mention on your website the link between hip hop and your music. So tell us a
yeah,
little bit about how music in general affects your work, and then how specifically hip hop affects your work.
yeah. So me and music. The beautiful thing about my high school was that I was exposed to all kinds of music. So I understand jazz, blues, classical music, and hip hop and how they all relate together in an interesting way. One of my favorite genres that people don't know that I enjoy is flamenco music. I love flamenco music very passionately. So I think that theater is the perfect medium to bridge these things. And I write poetry. So part of my process really is I create a musical score. I think of my work as a musical score. So I'm always listening in rehearsals to get things right. I'm always listening to the ebb and flow of how we naturally speak because everyone speaks. Anna DeBeer Smith said this, as well as August Wilson, that everyone naturally speaks in a poetic rhythm and melody. And if we listen closely, we can hear it. So that's what I'm always trying to capture is the natural music and internal rhythms of language. Um, and so specifically hip hop, I'm a child of the 90s. I'm giving my age away. I'm a child of the 90s. So I love the hip hop from the 80s and 90s because it was very socially conscious. Um, it was, and we're not talking gangster rap, but specifically like a Tribe Called Quest and Native Tongue collectives, early versions of The Roots, even to this day. I love hip hop that is socially conscious, that is speaking about what is happening in the city, because that is how hip hop was founded. Hip hop was founded talking about what was happening in the community and how people were feeling, and it was a meeting place, and it was seen as a way of communing, and that is a lot of what my work is about. It's about how do we, as a community, commune, heal, and reconcile.
Hmm.
So I'm always looking for what songs resonate with me that I try to capture the spirit of that song in a text. Because I think of my work as a living, breathing historical document that is meant to change. And I try to, when I'm teaching my students, um, that your work is living and breathing. It can change because you change every day. So, how do we capture what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're tasting, what you're experiencing in a moment? So, when we actually, I'm going to actually do a hip hop spoken word and Shakespeare class, which I'm really excited about.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, looking at the intersection, right?
Wow.
Um, of that, yeah, that's one of my new things I'm really excited about. And having done a similar residency like this at a school, when you bring in hip hop, I get a chance to know how you see the world and what you hear, and then I try to capture that authentic voice in whatever you're writing.
That's so cool. Now, is there a way? Now everything is closed in New Jersey, so I'm sure everything is on hold. But is there a way that people can get to know your work virtually? Do you have some things online?
Yeah, if you go to, I actually did a performance at the Free Library of Philadelphia, and if you go to my Instagram, I'll give my Instagram, which is really good. JC Playwright 92, so it's Playwright WRIGHT 92. If you hit the link in my bio, it takes you to a performance. I also have a few things on YouTube from that performance that you can see and listen to. And my Instagram has some of the poetry from that actual performance.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been doing a little bit of work here and there.
That's amazing. That's great. I'm gonna put all those links below on the video, so you can just click and because it's one thing hearing about the connection between music and the poetry and the art, but you have to hear it. You have to hear it. So we're gonna leave those links below.
Maybe I'll even perform. Maybe I'll perform one. I think I have one on my phone, so maybe I'll perform
Awesome.
one.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do that. That shouldn't be a problem. So they don't have to go very far. I mean, they can like listen to the video and hear the show. Something.
So all right, so now you finished say a new play. What do
Hmm.
you do? What is your advice? I'm saying this as our children and our youth is looking at what they're gonna do with a finished work. Once you finish something, what do you do with it? Where do you send it? Who do you send it to?
But that's a very good question. I have not fully answered that question in my own practice, but what I can say is do a number of different things. The beautiful thing about theater is that you only need an audience of one for it to be considered a performance in theater. And I think that's sometimes what the American theater forgets is that you only need one person in a room. So if you finish something, what happens if high school, and I did this in high school actually, what happens if you ask a bunch of your friends to stay after school and read the play with you? And so you can hear it all loud. What happens if you ask your mom to invite your family over and you have dinner and they all read this play together with you, depending on what the play is. So I'm lucky that my family, at several times, like I would give private concerts. We would come over dinner and I would play for them my recital piece that I was excited about. And same thing with plays. Like there are things you can do. So, for instance, if you write poetry, why not turn it into a book, your own book, and on YouTube record yourself performing it, or on Instagram making an IG story, or making an IG video that you then tag people in and send it to all your friends and your followers. Um, Theater companies are a bit hard to get people to come see your work realistically. But in the pandemic, things are a little bit easier because if it's virtual, and so some of the classes will end with a virtual performance of some sort. You can invite folks to say, hey, can you check out, even if it's 15 minutes, I would love for you to check out this 15-minute piece. But when you do it, make sure that you're proud of it because um, folks you only get one good opportunity. Folks will read a play once and they will see a play once. So really have a great mindset that you know what the play is about, you know what you want the play to be, you know how you want it to be cast. There's a free there's a free website called National New Play Exchange, um, in which you can start a profile for $7 for the whole year, and you can put your work up there. And then you get different keywords. You get to put keywords in that relates to your play, and then certain people can immediately get access to your work by clicking the keyword. If you're a playwright, find directors. Like look at if you know plays, find directors who you want to work with.
Is there like an
And
association or a group that you can find people or networking group?
it really depends. It really depends. I'm not sure what Newark has to offer. Philly has a few groups. New Jersey has a few groups. But it really depends on like find other playwrights that can connect you. It's really when you're starting out, it's all about finding people and having people read your work. So you really want to find your directors, um, actors, whether they're your friends or not, and other writers that you look up to and see if they can read your work or see who those writers know. Because those are the folks that can give you tools and opportunities.
That's great. Josh, thank you so much. I think we're very lucky and very happy to have you be part of our family at the Newark School of the Arts. So welcome to the school. Our kids are
Thank
gonna get
you.
so much from you,
I'm
and
excited.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see that relationship. So here's the new head of drama, Josh Campell. So welcome to the school,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so
and thank
excited.
you for your time today.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. It's going to be great.